What if I told you that the biggest obstacle standing between you and financial freedom isn't your income, your job, your education, or even the economy? What if the real problem is something you carry around with you every single day, something that influences every financial decision you make without you even realizing it? Today we are going to talk about the thing that controls your money more than anything else on this planet, and that thing is your mind. Stick with me until the end of this video because I'm going to show you exactly how your psychology is quietly running your financial life, and more importantly, what you can do about it right now. I want to start with a question. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract money no matter what situation they are in, while others seem to repel it no matter how hard they try? You have probably seen it. Two people with similar backgrounds, similar educations, similar opportunities, and yet one of them is building wealth steadily while the other is constantly struggling. What is the difference? It is not luck. It is not talent. It is not even hard work. It is mindset. It is the invisible programming that runs underneath every financial choice you make. Here is something that most financial gurus will not tell you. You can learn every budgeting technique, every investment strategy, every money hack on the internet, and still be broke 5 years from now. Not because the information is wrong, but because if your mindset around money is broken, the strategies will never stick. Your psychology will always override your knowledge. And that is exactly why we need to have this conversation before anything else. Let me tell you about a concept called your money blueprint. Think of it like the financial operating system that was installed in your brain during your childhood. Before you were 10 years old, you were absorbing information about money from everyone around you. What your parents said about money, what they argued about, how they spent it, or how they refused to spend it. Whether money was talked about openly, or whether it was treated like a dark secret. All of that became the foundation of how you relate to money today. Your beliefs, your habits, your emotional responses to financial situations, they all trace back to this early programming. And here is the uncomfortable part. Most of us never stop to examine that programming. We just run it on autopilot for our entire adult lives, and then wonder why we keep ending up in the same financial situations over and over again. The person who grew up hearing that rich people are greedy will unconsciously sabotage their own success to avoid becoming someone they were taught to despise. The person who grew up in a household where money was always scarce will carry a scarcity mindset into adulthood and make fear-based financial decisions that keep them stuck. The person who watched their parents spend impulsively will default to that same pattern when life gets stressful. This is not about blaming your parents or your upbringing. This is about awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you can start to change it. And that awareness right there is worth more than any budgeting app or investment tip. Now let me give you some real value here. There are specific psychological patterns that keep people financially stuck, and I want to walk you through the most powerful ones. Once you recognize these in yourself, something shifts. So let's get into it. The first pattern is scarcity thinking. This is the belief, often deeply unconscious, that there is never enough. Enough money, enough opportunity, enough success to go around. When you operate from scarcity, you hoard money and feel anxious about spending even on things that could grow your wealth. You see other people's success as a threat rather than an inspiration. You make decisions from fear rather than from strategy. And the cruel irony of scarcity thinking is that it tends to create the very scarcity you fear. People with a scarcity mindset often avoid investing because it feels too risky. They avoid negotiating for higher salaries because they are just grateful to have a job. They avoid spending on their own development because every dollar going out feels like a loss. And so, they stay small, not because the world is against them, but because their own mind is holding them back. The antidote to scarcity thinking is not fake positivity. It is not just telling yourself that money is abundant and hoping for the best. It is genuinely training your brain to look for opportunity instead of threat. It means catching yourself in scarcity thoughts and asking, is this actually true, or is this just a fear talking? It means surrounding yourself with evidence of abundance, whether that is studying people who have built wealth from nothing, or simply noticing where your own life is actually working well. The second psychological pattern is something called lifestyle inflation. Now this one is sneaky because it feels like success. You get a raise, and suddenly you need a nicer car. You land a big client, and now you deserve that expensive vacation. Your income goes up, and without even thinking about it, your spending goes up to match it. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the most common reasons that high-income earners end up with nothing to show for decades of work. The psychological driver here is something called hedonic adaptation. Your brain is wired to return to a baseline level of satisfaction, no matter how much your external circumstances improve. So the new car that made you happy becomes the normal car within a few months, and now you need something even better to get that same hit of satisfaction. Understanding this pattern is the first step to breaking it. When you realize that more stuff is not actually going to make you happier in the long run, you start making different choices. You start asking whether a purchase is genuinely serving your life, or whether it is just chasing a feeling that will fade. You start directing the extra money toward things that build lasting freedom rather than temporary pleasure. The third pattern, and this one is massive, is emotional spending. We do not make financial decisions with pure logic. We make them with emotion and then use logic to justify them afterward. Think about the last time you made an impulse purchase. What were you feeling right before it? Stressed, bored, lonely, excited. Emotional spending is using money to regulate your emotional state, and almost everyone does it to some degree. The danger is when it becomes your primary coping mechanism, when shopping is how you deal with stress, or dining out is how you reward yourself after a hard week, or buying things is how you feel a sense of control when life feels chaotic. You are essentially outsourcing your emotional management to your credit card, and that is a very expensive habit. Breaking the pattern of emotional spending starts with a simple pause. Before any non-essential purchase, just stop for 30 seconds. Ask yourself what you are actually feeling right now. Ask whether this purchase is going to address that feeling or just temporarily numb it. That tiny gap between the impulse and the action is where your financial life can genuinely change. Now I want to shift into something a little deeper, because we've been talking about patterns, and patterns come from beliefs. And beliefs, when they go unchallenged for long enough, become identity. This is where things get really powerful. When your relationship with money goes beyond just habits and becomes part of who you believe you are, that is when lasting change becomes possible, and also when lasting stuckness becomes possible. Think about phrases like, "I am just not a money person," or "money has never come easy to me," or "I am terrible with finances." These sound like observations, but they are actually identity statements, and the human brain is wired to protect your identity above almost everything else. If you believe at your core that you are not someone who is good with money, you will unconsciously resist any information, habit, or strategy that challenges that belief. You will make decisions that confirm what you already believe about yourself. It is called self-concept consistency, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. The way out of this trap is to start shifting your identity around money, not through wishful thinking, but through small, consistent actions that give your brain new evidence about who you are. Every time you choose to save instead of spending impulsively, you are casting a vote for the identity of someone who is building wealth. Every time you learn something new about investing, you are casting a vote for the identity of a financially intelligent person. Over time, those votes add up, and your self-concept shifts. And once your identity shifts, your behavior follows, automatically. Let me also talk about something that does not get discussed nearly enough, and that is the relationship between self-worth and net worth. A huge number of people unconsciously link how much money they have to how much value they believe they have as a human being. When money is tight, they feel like failures. When they earn more, they feel worthy of good things. This is a deeply painful way to live, and it creates some really destructive financial behaviors. People who tie their self-worth to their net worth tend to overspend to signal success to others and to themselves. They take on debt to maintain an image of prosperity they have not actually built yet. They feel crushing shame around financial mistakes, and that shame makes it harder to learn and grow. They avoid looking at their finances honestly because the numbers feel like a personal indictment. If any of that resonates with you, I want you to hear this clearly. Your bank balance is not a measure of your worth as a person. It is data. That is all. It tells you where you have been and gives you information about where you want to go. But it says nothing, absolutely nothing, about your value as a human being. Separating your self-worth from your financial situation is not just emotionally healthy. It is actually financially smart. Because once you can look at money without the weight of shame or ego, you can make decisions that are actually strategic rather than emotional. Now let us talk about the mindset of wealthy people. And I do not mean this in a naive, law of attraction kind of way. I mean it in a very practical, observable, behavioral way. People who build genuine lasting wealth think about money differently at a fundamental level. They think long-term. While the average person is focused on getting through the month, the wealth builder is focused on the next decade. They make decisions based on where they want to be in 10 years, not on what feels good right now. This long-term orientation is not a personality trait that some people are born with. It is a skill that you can develop by practicing asking one simple question before any financial decision. How does this serve my 10-year self? Wealthy people also think about assets versus expenses. They are constantly asking whether something they are spending money on is going to lose value or gain value over time. They see education as an investment. They see their time as an asset. They are building a mental model of the world where every dollar is either working for them or working against them. Another trait of the wealth mindset is comfort with delayed gratification. Now this one is deeply psychological. The famous marshmallow experiment showed us that children who could delay gratification tended to have better life outcomes across many dimensions, including financially. The good news is that delayed gratification is not just about willpower. It is about having a compelling enough vision of the future that waiting feels worth it. When you know deeply and clearly what you are building toward, saying no to something in the present becomes much easier because you are not just saying no to a thing, you are saying yes to a future. So let me ask you this, how clear are you on what you are actually building? Can you describe in detail what financial freedom looks like for you? Not just a vague idea of having more money, but a specific vision with a specific feeling attached to it. Because without that vision, delayed gratification is just suffering. With it, it becomes purpose. Here is another piece I want to give you that is genuinely life-changing. One of the most powerful psychological shifts you can make around money is moving from a passive relationship with it to an active one. Most people are passive about their finances. Money comes in, money goes out, and they hope that somehow things will work out over time. The active money mindset means that you are consciously directing your financial life. You know what is coming in. You know what is going out. You have decided, deliberately, what money means to you and what you want it to do for your life. You are making choices on purpose rather than drifting. This does not mean you need to be obsessed with money. It actually means the opposite. When you are actively and intentionally managing your finances, you can be much less anxious about money because you are in the driver's seat. It is the passive, drift, and hope approach that actually creates the most financial anxiety. There is one more psychological concept I want to leave you with, and it might be the most important thing I have said in this entire video. It is the idea of financial self-compassion. Most of us have made financial mistakes, debt that should not have happened, savings that should have been started sooner, opportunities that were missed because of fear, impulse buys that we regret. And many of us carry enormous shame and guilt around those mistakes. But here is the truth about shame. It does not motivate positive change. Research consistently shows that shame actually makes us less likely to take corrective action. When we feel deeply ashamed about something, we tend to avoid looking at it, avoid thinking about it, and avoid taking action because every time we do, it just brings up that painful feeling. Financial self-compassion means acknowledging your mistakes, understanding why they happened, learning from them, and then moving forward without the crushing weight of guilt. It means treating yourself the way you would treat a good friend who made a financial error. You would not tell your friend that they are a hopeless failure. You would help them understand what went wrong and figure out the next step. You deserve that same grace from yourself. The combination of honest self-awareness and genuine self-compassion is one of the most powerful platforms for financial transformation. Because when you can look at your financial reality clearly, without shame shutting down your thinking, you can actually do something about it. So here is where we land. Your finances are not primarily a math problem, they are a psychology problem. The numbers matter, but the mindset driving those numbers matters infinitely more. Your money blueprint was installed in you before you were old enough to question it. You may have been running patterns of scarcity, emotional spending, identity level limitation, or self-worth confusion for years or even decades without knowing it. But now you know. And knowing is the beginning of everything. Your financial future is not determined by the economy, by your past mistakes, by your starting point, or by what anybody else told you was possible for someone like you. It is determined by the thoughts you think, the beliefs you hold, and the psychological patterns you are willing to examine and change. That is the most empowering financial truth there is. If this video shifted something for you, hit that like button and subscribe because we are just getting started. There is so much more to explore when it comes to building the mindset that changes everything. Drop a comment below and tell me which of the psychological patterns we talked about today resonated most with you. I read every single one. I will see you in the next video.